over the weekend, we did make some moves out here, man. Shout out to the newest member of the gang, Donald Parham Jr. All right. Obviously joining the squad. I want to say the news came out. This had to be Friday, late afternoon, going into the weekend. But we signed Donald Parham Jr. on a 1-year deal. And for a little bit of context on him, man, he's going into his 5th season in the NFL. Just finished up 4 seasons with the Los Angeles Chargers, where he played tight end. In terms of this dude, played at Stetson College, 6'8", 237 pounds. I mean, you look at him, man, yeah. Dude looks the basketball hooper part on the football field. That's what he looks like, bro. Crazy tall. Him and Darnell Washington, man. Mountain Washington. They're gonna be competing what for who's the tallest dude out there, man. But in terms of some of the statistics with Darnold, man, 47 career games played, 23 starts, 764 receiving yards off of 67 receptions, has 11 receiving touchdowns also. All right. So in terms of what he did just last year, or excuse me, not last year, because last year he was on Denver's practice squad. 2023 was his last active season where he was on the active roster. Like I said, out there with the Chargers. And with that, played in 14 games, 8 starts, 285 receiving yards, 4 touchdowns is what he had that season. All right. So in terms of Donald, obviously, man, he's a dude that, to me, man, is at that middle part of his career. Had a nice start to it, man, trying to carve out a role as a tight end, number 2 option, more of a receiver than the blocker type just right now, but still obviously is working on developing more. But I do like the fact that, man, this is a guy that has already had 4 seasons actively in the NFL, man, playing in a good amount of games. So just when you're talking about the experience part of it and what that brings, it brings competition, it brings depth. You think about a Michael Pruitt type, you talk about the Connor Haywards, obviously Darnell Washington. These are all guys that have at some point been a number 2 tight end or an alternative option for the tight end room. And when I look at Donald, I'm like, man, understanding obviously what Arthur Smith likes to do, meaning using tight ends, play action pass, that type of stuff. This is a guy that does give you an added element, an added option. Now, the beautiful part is the dude is 6'8". And when you watch him on tape, he looks the part of 6'8". You know, some people, they say, oh, yeah, he's 6'8", and he's really not 6'8". Like, when they be like, yo, Moats, you 6'2", you be like, yeah, bro, he's 6'2", all right. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, his 6'8", I'm like, yo, you are legit. Like, it looked the part. So I do like that. I do think that athletically, he presents a unique profile, man, because he actually does run well for his size. You know, you watch him, man, some of those big dudes, man, they look kind of clumsy out there. They don't have enough acceleration. But I thought, man, watching Donald on tape, that he does move well in space. And I think that that is a good thing for a guy his size. Now, obviously, the things that has kept him off the field has been a little bit of that physicality part. And when you are that tall, but also 237 pounds, you are a light, long guy. And that is very challenging at times in the trenches. If you watch him from a receiving standpoint, I think that he does an excellent job, man, high pointing the football or just giving his quarterback a lot more room for error, right? When you look at some of these big body dudes, man, it's like, man, I don't have to be pinpoint accurate. I don't have to put the ball in the precise location every time. I just got to put it up in the vicinity, and you're a guy that can go up there and get it. So when I look at, Donald, I'm like, yo, you definitely give that. And I think that that's going to be a positive. I think the challenges are going to be, like I said, man, can you stay on the field as a number 2 if you had to be the blocking guy? If you're not going to be the guy that we look at like Muth, who we know is the primary receiving threat at tight end, can you do some of the other stuff, which is what we ask of Darnell Washington, which was what we've asked of Michael Pruitt at times. And we've seen, for some of those guys, they can do it, but that's something that the door will be potentially open for. Now, if he can come out here and start hooping, going up top and straight dunking on folk when you throw the ball up in the air, look like Antonio Gates, look like Tony Gonzalez out that thing, I think that's a different convo, Jimmy Graham type, because he got the body type for that. But we'll obviously see how it plays out. But the one thing that I will also say is this, man, knowing that he was on the practice squad all of last year in Denver, I do like the fact that, man, he ain't giving up, right? You talk about some adversity in people's career. Everybody just assumes, like, man, when you go on that active roster, you play them first couple of seasons, like everything is gravy. And it's like, to go from 4 years where you finally get vested, man, that's a big thing for the players from a benefit standpoint. And then you go to a practice squad. It's like, man, mentally that could be a lot on you, man. It could be a little bit of a embarrassment feeling, man, or a little bit feeling of just failure, right? Because you're going from being a guy that gets the helmet, that gets the jersey with the bigger checks, to now just being the practice squad. So I am eager to see how he's going to respond now that he gets a chance to have a whole offseason to compete with guys that look similar to him, Darnell Washington, but also guys that look different than him as well. And I think that, man, this could be a, potential a nice upside to it. I'm not going to come here and try to sell you a dream when I say, oh, man, this dude is all world. He's ready to light it up. We got our tight end, man. Let's go. But what I will say is this, man, I think that he does present a lot of positive, man. When you're looking at Donald versus, a guy that you're going to pick up late in the draft, right? Because tight end wasn't early on our list, right? We know we got quarterback, running back, wide receiver, D-line, maybe O-line if you're talking to TG, right? So I think of all of these other positions and I say to myself, well, man, when were you going to potentially get a tight end that which you would want to come in here and compete with the Darnell Washington, with, anybody else that you're going to keep in that room exclusively without, having to use a ton of resources? You don't have to use a ton of resources on a Donald Parham signing. And I think that that's going to be a positive. And like I said, man, you could potentially get a highly motivated dude that's coming in fresh off of a practice squad season after doing 4 years of being on the active. And now he's ready to prove that he belongs back on the active roster. So like I said, for me, I see it that way, man. I'm hoping that, he responds well to the adversity that he's faced in his career now, man. Because like I said, when you go from 4 years active to being on the P squad, that's adversity, man, because now you're trending in the wrong direction. So we will see how he responds to it, man. But I will say, man, I like the hype, man. You might not be the most skilled, but give me a defining characteristic. He got a defining characteristic. Not everybody has a defining characteristic. I wish I had the defining characteristic. I was like, yo, man, I wish I was 6'4", 260. That's defining characteristic. Yeah. When you 6'8", yeah. You passed the eyeball test. All right. You are good. You're like, he does something. I don't know what it is, but he do something. All right. So we shall see if he can actually, translate some of that height and athleticism to being a more productive player, man, because we all for it, man. And let's also be real. It's not like we really care how we come about you or how we, find you and you help our squad. Oh, I mean, if it's a draft pick, great. We obviously have hit on draft picks before, right? If it's a free agent signing, we don't care. We'll take a free agent signing as well. If it's a trade, we don't care if it's a trade. Like, oh man, we cut you, brought you back. It's the whole depot. Like, we do not care, man. If you could play and the time is right, man, pull up, let's work, man. So I do like that, man. But hopefully, like I said, man, y'all will be enjoying Donald Parham Jr. At some point this season, giving us some type of production, man. But either way, man, hit that like button one time for the culture and subscribe if you are new to the channel, baby.